If you live on the East Coast or the Great Lakes region, you've probably seen eastern white pines before. Alright, white pines are tall. They're the tallest trees in our forest area. They can get up to about 100 feet tall, just like these ones here. But what's really cool about the white pines is that before we logged out our old growth forests in the east, they used to grow 200 feet tall. That is twice the height of these big ones back here. Now, you might notice that I'm using eastern white pine and white pine interchangeably. But that is because they are two names for the same species. In a textbook or a field guide, you'll see them as eastern white pines. But if you go to the lumber yard, they're just white pines. These trees have a pretty big range. You can find them all throughout northeastern North America, as well as the Great Lakes region. Alright, these trees were probably the most important trees in the world at one point. These trees were used to build ship masts. Britain had a large navy and needed tall, straight trees to do this. Wood was also used to heat British homes, fuel industry, with Britain already chopping down most of their tall trees by this point. The king controlled the trees in his colonies, and the American colonists didn't like this. They pushed back, and it was an early factor in the American Revolution. Alright, how do I know if it's a white pine? Well, for starters, they have needles in bundles of 5. Most other pines in the area have needles in bundles of 2 or 3. Their needles are also bendable. They're soft. Their pine cones are long and slender. They typically grow straight up, and they do a pretty good job at pruning their lower branches. Their bark is deep and furrowed. It's got these big cracks running through it, and it almost looks scaly when they get old. These trees are part of the Super Canopy Club. They poke past their neighbors, shooting past the other trees around them in the forest. Alright, these trees are an economically important tree for the lumber industry. They make an excellent softwood. They're used for construction, furniture, and pulp paper. The estimated value of all the standing white pines is around $20 billion. Did you know that pines don't produce cones every single year? White pines produce cones on average every 3 to 5 years. Alright, eastern white pines are the provincial tree for Ontario, but they're also the state tree for Michigan and Maine. The pine cone and tassel also makes up Maine's state flower, even though pines, gymnosperms, don't have real flowers at all. Alright, if you're ever in the unlikely scenario that you're lost in the woods in the Northeast and you're dying of scurvy, don't panic, because white pine needles are more than 5 times dense in vitamin C than lemons are. Alright, eastern white pines are a keystone species here in this forest region. For starters, they are the tallest tree in the forest. That alone means that they have to support the forest during a heavy windstorm. They provide structure for different birds and animals to nest in their branches. They provide food for all sorts of animals in the forest. White-tailed deer eat the buds from younger trees. Red squirrels love their pine cones. Porcupines eat the inner bark. Woodpeckers eat the bugs in dead trees. Loads of animals in the forest call these trees home. They rely on these white pines. Eastern white pines are awesome. They're a commercially important tree. They have a really cool history. They're a keystone species here, and a mature stand of white pine has real character to it. This forest wouldn't look the same without them, and they really do add something to the Great Lakes region. They used to grow 200 feet tall. Oh, it's a raven.